Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Texas Developmental Screening and Surveillance Echo, brought to you by UT Health San Antonio in collaboration with the Texas State Department of State Health Services. My name is Julio Blanco, and I will be facilitating today's session. A few housekeeping items before we begin. To help with attendance, please enter your full name, affiliation, and email into the chat. As a reminder, these sessions are being recorded for later distribution. Please remember to stay muted unless you are speaking, though we do encourage using the chat and/or raise your hand feature to pose questions or share your perspectives. If you're having connection issues, please privately chat Karen, our Echo IT, for assistance. And to ensure privacy, no personal health information is allowed at any point during the session. This, of course, includes names, addresses, birth dates, or any other identifiable information. And let us always make every effort to avoid bias and stigmatizing terms so that we can continue having a space that is respectful and safe to learn. Lastly, today's session will begin with team introductions, followed by a didactic presentation and a patient case study. We'll then stay in the main room for the actual case discussion. With that, let's go ahead and move on to some team introductions. With us today, we have Faith Rivera.
Hi, everyone. My name is Faith Rivera, and I'm the CEO of Alice Avitas Consulting. Excited that you all are here for this important conversation. Thank you so much.
We also have Dr. Jennifer Cox.
Happy Friday, everybody. Glad you're able to join us. I am Jennifer Cox, a System Director for Provider Support and Training with My Health, My Resources in Tarrant County.
Thanks so much, both of you, for being here today. And our case presenter and didactic presenter is Renee Barati. Renee, once Karen pulls up your slides, feel free to take it away.
All right. Hello, everyone. We will be going over successful childcare and early childhood intervention partnerships. And again, my name is Renee Barati. I work with My Health, My Resources of Tarrant County, specifically under the program Help Me Grow North Texas. And I am a childcare and early education navigator. And I'm also credentialed as an early intervention specialist. Okay, so next slide. So we'll go over a few disclosures. So the views and opinions expressed in the presentation are those of my own and do not reflect the official views or policy of UT Health San Antonio and have no financial conflicts of interest to disclose concerning this presentation. Next slide. UT Health San Antonio Echo recognizes that language is constantly evolving, and while we make every effort to avoid bias and stigmatizing terms, we acknowledge that unintentional lapses may occur in our presentations, and we value your feedback and encourage you to share any concerns related to language, images, or concepts that may be offensive or stigmatizing. Your input will help us refine and improve our presentations, ensuring they remain inclusive and respectful to participants. Next slide. The following slides include a portion of a longer presentation titled All Together Now, and this presentation was developed by Texas Early Childhood Intervention, which is a statewide program within the Texas Health and Human Services Commission, and we have received permission to use a portion of the All Together Now presentation to address the topic of successful childcare, early childhood intervention partnerships. All right, next slide. Okay, so what is ECI? So ECI is a statewide program that serves infants and toddlers from birth to 36 months with a developmental delay or disability. Services are provided in the child's natural environment, so it could be their home or childcare setting, using their everyday routines and activities. Okay, next slide. Right. So eligibility determination. So a few ways a child is eligible for ECI services is that if they have a qualifying medical diagnosis, they have an auditory impairment or visual impairment, if they have a developmental delay, if a child is under 36 months and resides in Texas and meets at least one of the eligibility criteria, he or she can receive ECI services. And also, if family's income is not a factor in determining their eligibility. Next slide. So who provides services within ECI? So one of the most common is the early intervention specialist. We also have speech pathologists, occupational physical therapists, social workers, nurses, licensed professional counselors, registered dietitians, teachers for the visually impaired, and teachers for deaf and hard of hearing. Okay, next slide. So what services are provided? So we have occupational therapy, we have physical therapy, speech therapy, specialized skills training, and with specialized skills training, that is with our early intervention specialist. Case management, which can include if a family is in need of food, for case management, flyers can be shared with the family about local food drives, for example. And then we also have counseling, visual impairment education, deaf and hard of hearing education, dietitian services, and nurse. Okay, next slide. So what is coaching? So the National Association for the Education of Young Children and Childcare Aware of America define coaching as a relationship-based process led by an expert with specialized and adult learning, knowledge and skills, who often serves in a different professional role than the recipients. Coaching is designed to build capacity for specific professional dispositions, skills, and behaviors, and is focused on goal setting and achievement for an individual or group. Okay, next slide. So is coaching effective? So in the series of studies reported in the Journal of Early Childhood Intervention, about the effect of coaching parents, children experience developmental gains. So two studies noted gains across all developmental domains, including gross motor, fine motor, cognitive, communication, self-help skills, and social-emotional skills. And other studies noted gains in language, social communicative strategies, motor behaviors, reading skills, improvement in child independent work skills, and improvement in adaptive skills. In one study that focused on parent fidelity to intervention noted reduced child outcomes between 6 and 12 months, which coincided with a reduction in parents' use of strategies. Okay, next slide. Okay, so this chart shows the effectiveness of ECI's family-centered services and coaching process. So on the left side, it shows the typical therapeutic intervention model where the therapist works with the child twice a week for 45 minutes per session. It shows how a child can receive over 300 minutes of intervention a week when the families and childcare providers embed strategies into their typically occurring activities that were taught to them by their service provider. So through coaching, the parent and other caregivers understand how to work with their child. And therapy isn't just a few times a week, it's every day. Okay, next slide. So we'll go over successful collaboration in the classroom. And early intervention providers and childcare teachers have that same goal, and that's to provide children with positive learning environments and experiences that enhance their development. So in this section, we'll discuss best practices and strategies for both the teacher and the early intervention provider to promote effective collaborative relationships. Okay, next slide. So when preparing for the visit, plan ahead by considering the best time to visit the classroom. Be flexible. And ECI services are most effective when they take place during a child's typical activities and when caregivers are involved in the session. So what can be added here? So if you work in a childcare center and you're a director or a teacher, talk with your ECI provider on when the best time to come in. So next slide. So choosing the best time. So you'll want to come in during regular activities. It's important that you will be able to participate when ECI services are provided in your classroom. And this is because the ECI provider will coach you on techniques and strategies that you can use in between visits. So you'll want to communicate with the ECI provider about times or activities when the child is the most challenging or when you need the most support with the child. Okay, next slide. We also want meaningful interactions. The service provider will give you strategies to address the child's goals, and you'll get the greatest impact from the visit if you ask for repeated demonstration of the strategies if necessary, ask questions, and practice the strategies with the service provider. So when the ECI provider comes in, they will implement strategies used with the child based on the skill the child is working on. And then the ECI provider will ask you, either whoever's in the classroom, so if it's the teacher, they will return that feedback and implement those strategies that they have just observed. Okay, next slide. Okay, so additional tips for increasing the effectiveness of an ECI provider's visit include asking the service provider to write down strategies for you to focus on before the next visit. And also use the strategies throughout the week and give the service provider feedback about how the child responds to the strategies and possible modifications. Okay, next slide. Right, so partnering for success. Be sure to share your observations of the child's strengths, their needs, and progress with the service provider, as well as with the child's parent. Allow the service provider to include the ECI child's peers in activities, because peers are also great role models. And also consider allowing the service provider to lead a small group activity. And also remember, only discuss the ECI child services in progress with their parents and caregivers. All right, next slide. So we will share a few resources. So there are some wonderful resources you can access from the Health and Human Services website. And we will drop some of these resources in the chat So be on the lookout for some links. So we have the ECI resource guide. The resource guide is located on the ECI website and contains information about resources of interest to families of children with developmental delays or disabilities. And on that same website, we have ECI videos located on the ECI website under outreach materials. And these videos were produced to help educate and inform families and professionals. And also another great resource for parents is the Navigate Live Texas website, which is also located in the ECI resource guide. And this website was created to inform and empower parents of children with disabilities or special needs. All right, so be sure to save those links that we have put in the chat. All right, so next slide. All right, and if you are interested in accessing the full All Together Now training, this is a list of centers that provide this training. So if you're interested in completing the full training, please reach out to the ECA director at the site. Okay, next slide. All right, so many early childhood intervention programs offer live training to childcare programs in Texas. So we have 3 main trainings. We have the All Together Now. We have Building Stronger Brain Foundations, and we also have Planning and Creating Inclusive Classrooms. Right. And many, we have ECI services provided by 39 ECI programs serving all Texas counties. And you can locate your closest ECI provider, which we will also share in the chat. And you can search by your city, county, or zip code to find the closest ECI program. Okay, next slide. And these are additional resources that provide free trainings. We have the Division for Early Childhood. We also have Learn the Signs Act Early. And we have the Office of Special Education programs. Okay, next slide. This is a resource for ECI materials and publications. If you're interested on getting any pamphlets going over ECI, you can go to this website. We encourage you to maybe place these pamphlets on your bulletin board in the child care center where parents can take a look at them. Okay, and next slide. And then we'll give a few minutes for any questions that anyone may have. So feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat.
Great. Thank you so much, Renee. Yeah, so at this time, we'd like to open up the floor for anyone who has any questions for Renee on our presentation today, any thoughts, comments, or your own experiences.
I clicked on one of the websites and it said not found, but I can't remember which one it was. But it was in a chat.
We'll be sure to double check all the links and send them out in post. That way you all have access to them. And all those
Okay.
are great resources.
Where are the posters located to post for the families?
It is on the ECI materials and publications link. Um, I believe we shared it in the chat.
Okay.
If not, we'll get it in the chat as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Great, thank you so much. No worries if you don't have any questions at the moment. If anything comes up, feel free to post it in the chat. Or during the case presentation, feel free to unmute and ask any additional questions. We can go ahead and move on to our announcements for today. Karen, you can pull those up, please. Thanks so much. So don't forget to claim credit using your TechPeds account and scanning the QR code on the screen. You may also use the link that is in the chat. And a reminder that a TechPeds account is needed to claim credit for today's session. Next slide, please. Are you interested in presenting a case? Cases can describe a challenge that you are presently facing with a child in your care. Challenges can be around screening, intervention, referrals, etc. As a case presenter, you do not have to prepare a formal case presentation. To submit a case, please use the link that will be posted in the chat. Next slide, please. And please join us at the next Texas Dishes Echo on Friday, July 10th for a presentation on SPED services. So much. All right, and so before we move into the case for today, I would like to remind everyone that no protected health information is allowed in either the chat or in the discussion. And let us always continue to make this space inclusive and open to respectful dialogue. So with that, once Karen pulls up the slides, Renee, you can walk us through the case.
Okay, so our case study for today. So we have a female child, aged 2 years and 2 months. And the referral reason was that they had limited expressive language and difficulty interacting with peers. Some developmental concerns from both the parents and teacher were that they use fewer than 10 words, relies on pointing, crying, and pulling adults. They have frequent frustration during group activities, and the ECA provider visits weekly, and the classroom teacher is the only adult typically in the classroom and collaborating and participating. And coaching during the ECA visit is difficult. The teacher has other children needing her attention. So as a group, they need help with brainstorming ways to increase collaboration with the teacher and ECA provider so the child benefits from the early intervention.
Thank you so much. I'd like to go ahead and open up the floor for any questions that any of our learning community has. I do see that Kelly, you posted a question. Do you want to go ahead and unmute and ask your question? No worries. I can go ahead and ask your question for you. So Kelly had asked, how large is the class size ratio?
20. 20.
And the ask today from Renee is she's asking for to brainstorm ways to increase collaboration with the teacher and the ECI provider so that the child benefits from the early intervention. Any suggestions or thoughts from your own personal experiences with similar situations?
I know from conversations I've had, both with child care providers and ECI providers, is sometimes the reason ECI is there is not clear. Um, and the ECI providers going in, it's not their classroom. They're concerned about interrupting, disrupting. The teacher might feel like someone's there watching them when that's really not the goal of ECI. Um, so that the teacher's feeling um, uncomfortable and um, the ECI provider's not sure that they're welcome in the room. And so that kind of prevents that coaching and collaboration and communication about what the child um, needs and what progress they're making. So sometimes even just simple, even if it's through writing an email, that good communication that this is what I'm here for. This is what I see with this student. Um, this is the best time of the day for you to come. This is not a good time of the day for you to come. Um, can help because I think the challenge in the case study is very real. A teacher has so many things she's juggling and so many other students' needs to meet that it's hard or sometimes maybe even not possible to stop what's going on to have that conversation with another adult. But I'm curious what other providers out there, if you have ECI service providers coming to your center, what have you found successful? Or what challenges have you had?
Florence, I see that you posted something in the chat. Are you able to unmute and share your comment? So Florence posts, I can go ahead and read that for you. So Florence
Hello.
posted,
Okay, there I go.
there you
I'm
go,
sorry.
awesome.
I don't know how to use my computer too well. I'm trying to learn it. Okay, but I figured it out. Okay.
Awesome.
What I was saying is that a lot of times younger kids won't learn in such a big setting. I am a home daycare and I have a smaller setting. I've been able to teach children by the time they're 3 how to read, write, do opposites, do all kinds of things that they have not been able to do in big setting groups. You know what I mean? So sometimes children can get in and they do well in big giant groups like that, but sometimes they also do better in a smaller group when you find that they're having learning difficulties. So because sometimes they just need that one-on-one, and then when you have all these kids in one class, you can't give that. So sometimes some of the kids are gonna get that neglect because you're trying to teach as a whole and for all these kids, and that child just needs a smaller personal, one-on-one. And sometimes it also stresses a child out. Like I have a son that's ADHD and attention deficit. The only problem he had was he needed a small group. And once we figured that out, I had to put him in private school to figure it out. So I took him out of the regular classroom, the regular school system, put him in the private school, which had lesser children and had more focus. And yet he became the A student that he was before, because he went down from an A student to a D student by third grade. And I was like, no, something's going on. So I visited the school, and there were so many kids just sitting in the hallway because the teacher could not manage to all these kids. So she was just sticking them in the hallway. And when I went and I visited that school, I was very upset. For one, all these parents didn't even know their kids were sitting in the hallway. So that was number one. And if these kids are having issues with learning, then we need to find out why. And when I sat in the classroom, one of the reasons I knew why his particular class was having issues is because the teacher was an older teacher that read so slow, it put me to sleep, and I'm a teacher. You should not put another teacher to sleep in your classroom. So the focus in the class, I let her know, nicely, teacher to teacher. At that time, I was teaching 4 and 5-year-olds. I'll read a sentence from a book and then I'll throw it back at the kids. Tell me what happened next. Who can tell me? And I have them raising their hands. And I have them interacting, and I have them doing things. Well, here in my home daycare, I have a variety of students. So even but I involve them, even though maybe they might not 100% understand, and they start grasping. By the time they're 3 years old, they're reading fluently, pretty much. I've had kids that were artistic, and I didn't even know it. You know what I mean? Because they fit in this small group so well. They didn't even, we didn't learn till they started school and they got into the bigger group. And then they saw it like, oh, the child's pulling away. The child was doing a lot of things that they were not doing here, because they had that one-on-one. Because I do a lot of individual stuff with the kids along with the group, little small group things. So if a child's in a big old group of 15 and they're 2 years old, it might be over stressful. It might be overstimulating. I keep low lights in my daycare. I don't put the high bright lights. Sometimes all that stuff is a distraction for some of the little ones, So I'm just saying that there's different reasons children might not be able to learn. You just got to check all little avenues. But I think big classrooms for small kids. I've worked in daycare and home daycare, and I've worked with 38 kids before. And yes, the distraction is so like outrageous for some of these kids. They just go in the corners, or they can't participate because it's just too much going on. So I made smaller groups, and then we just taught in smaller groups. While some kids played, we had smaller groups where some kids were learning, and then we just rotated them. And they actually started picking up a little bit more doing it that way. So, and every school, they have to kind of figure out what can we do to help every child and meet every child's need.
Thanks so much for sharing that, Florence.
I think with this case, I've had ECI in my center on numerous occasions with different children with development delays. Upon them coming, I made sure I talked to the mom, so we will be able to, that the person can talk to us, so we could be on the same page. So whatever she's gonna do with the kid or work with the child, that we'll be able to continue that when she's not there. But upon her coming, I let the teacher know that someone will be coming in. They are just going to sit in the class. So I want you to continue as usual to observe, because she needs to observe Sally in her learning environment. So it's nothing, it's just reassuring the teacher as well. And a lot of time, if the person that's coming in need to speak to someone, that, I talk to the individual, and then I'll share with the teacher. And at some point, she can talk to the teacher, but to make sure that the child is getting the service. And in that class, It was like 11 students because it was in a toddler class. So just being able to support and kind of jump ahead so the teacher doesn't feel overwhelmed. The kids are not. And if it's routine, kids, if things are structured and there's a routine, it's kind of hard because kids will remind you when you're going off strip or something like that. So I think that will help, depending on how the teacher class is set up. But if it's no routine going on in there, someone coming in can throw a child off.
I agree. Thank you so much for sharing that insight. And Claudia, Celis, I see that you had posted a comment in the chat. Would you like to share a little bit about your experience of working with DCI?
My English is so awful. That's what I'm writing. But I love when they come to my center. I love that. I love when they share a lot to my teacher ideas to manage with the kids. I love that.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Kelly, I did see that you posted, Kelly Dixon, I do see that you posted a few questions, thoughts. Are you able to unmute to share?
Yeah, sorry, I have a bit of a cold right now, so
No
I was
worries.
trying to type too. No, I think it's with ECI. I'm an in-home, and I have, depending on the day, 8 to 12 children with. I have an autistic son. He was raised in my program. We had services coming for him. I've had several children who have had developmental delays who needed assistance throughout the years, whether it was speech or occupational. And a lot of people, they may feel judged or that their classroom is too busy. But if they have a child that they're having issues with because there's a lack of communication or behavioral, having someone come in to work one-on-one with that child because you can't is a benefit to you. And then you can ask that person, what can I do to continue to support this child in between sessions with you so that I can continue to help them improve? Because 1 or 2 sessions a week is very slow progress. But if you can continue doing the same things that that person was working with them on, then you'll start to see progress faster. But they're there to help you and that child. And, yeah, it's sometimes a distraction for the other children in your class, but that also teaches the other children that everybody's different. And sometimes we need to respect that person who needs that extra help and, be understanding of someone who's a little bit different than us. Because if they're never exposed to that, then they're going to start treating people differently when they are finally exposed to that.
Thanks so much for sharing that. It's great to hear the insight of working with ECI from the teacher's perspective, most definitely. Anybody else have any experiences?
I'm curious whether it's Kelly or anyone else, if you've had ECI providers in your center, what kinds of things did they do that um, made it more successful, that partnership? Because we can communicate that with ECI providers as well. I love hearing those that, let them in, they'll help you. The messages that some of you have posted. But what do you think helps you feel so positively about that?
I would say when they use things that I have on hand, like I know a lot of the therapists will bring in a box of, items to use with the child, but when they use my manipulatives, I can see how they use them to help that child so that when they're not there, I can continue those same activities.
Right. That's the difference between 1 or 2 45-minute therapy sessions a week or the adults in that child's life being able to practice those skills just in their daily routines constantly. Thank you for that example.
Yes, most definitely. Thank you so much for sharing. Does anybody else have any of their own experiences working with ECI providers or instances where they would have liked to have seen something done a little bit differently? Again, we're open to share your perspectives, share your thoughts.
Or Renee, as an EIS, can you share something maybe someone at a childcare center did that helped you feel like that it made the partnership more successful? Um, Maybe sometimes you didn't feel welcome, but something someone else did helped you feel welcome, um, and supported you in being able to support the child and adults.
Yeah, so in the previous role as an early intervention specialist, I would go into homes as well as childcare centers. And when going to childcare centers, my trainer would always tell us that on our very first session with that child in the daycare center is to just build rapport with the teacher. Because sometimes when we come in, they may not know who we are, and so just introducing yourself to the teacher and explaining why you're there and what you'll be doing with the child and how important it is to have that collaboration with the teacher, because you will be, as an early intervention specialist, um, I worked on skills that the child was working on. And so I would implement strategies and have the teacher observe and highly encourage the teacher to implement that same strategy. I just had them observe and to return that feedback. And I've also found it helpful as an EIS, an early intervention specialist, is that implementing those skills needed to be worked on during circle time, so group time. I know a few of you mentioned that group time helped a lot with when teaching your children in your classroom. So, as a teacher in the classroom, um, be open to ECI providers leading circle time for just for a few minutes. For example, if a child is working on pointing to objects and also naming the object verbally, you can have the child maybe go up to the board, and if you're working on letters, have the child point to the letter and also say the letter.
Thanks so much for sharing that. Yeah, no, that is really, really interesting. And I know, Claudia, you posted a question. She had asked, where can she get a free training for teachers to have ASQ training? Is that something that y'all are familiar with, or
Yeah, and
Yes.
Oh,
go ahead. No, go, Claudia. Yeah.
No, well, that was my question. That where can I found ASQ trainings for my teachers.
Where in Texas are you located?
I'm in Brownsville, Texas.
Okay.
And the South. Yeah.
Perfect. If someone else on here knows, please chime in. I know where you can access it in kind of in North Texas, but I can look and see where other places are. Anybody else knows where there is one in Brownswood?
Okay, I appreciate. Thank you.
And if anybody knows where those resources would be located, feel free to post that in the chat, or you can come off mute and share that if you'd like. Oh, Priscilla, I saw that you posted something. Awesome. Well, thank you so much to everyone that has shared their thoughts and their experiences working with ECI. Thank you so much, Renee, for sharing your own insight on what works well, as well as this case. With that, I'd like to reference over to Dr. Cox. Would you please give us a summary of recommendations for today?
Yeah, absolutely. So today, in our effort to talk about how to have successful partnerships between ECI and childcare providers, Renee was able to give us a little background about what ECI is and what children may be eligible, and that how ECI uses a coaching model. The idea is not just therapy during certain times of the day, but equipping the adults in the child's life to work on those skills that need practice throughout the week and during daily routines. And she gave us some strategies on how to help that partnership, whether it is setting up that first meeting, communicating with the provider, what are good times of the day to meet, letting the ECI provider know what challenges you're having during the day, watching them demonstrate a strategy or a practice, practicing it yourself, and then asking any follow-up questions you may have. And then at that next visit, letting him or her know what worked well and what didn't work well, because we are always adjusting with our little ones, aren't we? They grow and change so quickly, and we also know that what works for one child might not work for every child. So that communication is the big piece. Then she also shared some resources that if you want access to the full All Together Now training that also covers developmental milestones and red flags, you can reach out to that list of ECI providers that have recently led All Together Now sessions, and then also links to other trainings, whether it's archived webinars from ECI, ECI brochures, the Division of Early Childhood, all kinds of different places where you can access training information. And then we were able to brainstorm and talk about some of our success stories that we've had when ECI was in our centers. So thank you, everybody. I think Julio might have just, oh, there he is.
Again, yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Cox. And thank you so much to our hub and Renee and everybody who contributed today. And I hope that everybody did gain some resources from today's presentations as well as the cases. The TechPed link will be emailed out to everyone. And please do join us at our next Texas Dishes Echo on Friday, July the 10th. Thank you so much, everyone. Great rest of your day.